Wondering what light novels are most popular in Japan right now? Well, you're watching the right video because this is the top 10 light novels in Japan for the week of July 12th to the 18th of 2021. Hi there everybody, it's Justus R. Stone back with the weekly look at the top 10 individual best-selling volumes of light novels, as well as the top 10 best-selling series list. This, of course, is taken from the Oricon website. Now, little discrepancies here to note. For the top 10 individual volumes, I do look at three lists, not only the light novel work, but also the paperback and literary book lists, because how some publishers are listed, how some of the works are listed, even though they are generally accepted as light novels, they don't always show up on the light novel work list. And that will be very evident this week because you'll see the sales of the number one top individual volume, but that series does not appear in the top 10 series list because, again, for whatever reason, it's not technically listed as a light novel in the way that Oricon tabulates. In any case, again, this is the list for July 12th to the 18th of 2021. Let's get into it. So, at number 10 of the top 10 individual volumes, with 5,389 copies sold, we have volume number 1 of The Detective is Already Dead. You Will Be My Assistant. During a plane hijacking 4 years ago, Kimitsuka Kimihiko wound up becoming the assistant to a beautiful detective named Siesta. The pair traveled the world, solving crimes and battling criminal organizations. Until Siesta died, anyway. Kimitsuka thought that would spell the end of his adventures and a return to ordinary life. But an encounter with a girl who bears an uncanny resemblance to Siesta suggests that fate has other plans. Now, of course, this isn't a new volume. This is most definitely getting a boost because of the anime. There's been, I guess, 2 episodes so far aired? Maybe we're on to the third one. I'm not watching the anime because I'm avoiding spoilers for future volumes. I've only read the first volume so far. So, but definitely this one getting that anime boost, considering that I think there's 5 volumes, so it's nowhere near the most recent, but you can tell with it being that first volume, definitely getting a boost from that anime. At number 9, with 7,676 copies sold, volume 23 of Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Programmer Ichiro Suzuki is transported to another world. In a foreign land, he finds that life is an adventure that's sometimes fun, sometimes serious, and full of girls. I really hate that blurb, but that is the one that Yen On decided to use to sell the series. So yes, it is licensed in English, obviously. I mean, it's that slow life, adventuring OP guy with a whole bunch of girls following in tow. Seems pretty popular. I mean, it did really great sales last week, was at the top of the list. So, bit of a fall this week, but still, I mean, a fairly solid almost 8,000 copies sold on this one. At number 8, with 7,727 copies sold, Spy Family, Family Values. Master Spy Twilight is the best at what he does when it comes to going undercover on dangerous missions in the name of a better world. But when he receives the ultimate impossible assignment, get married and have a kid, he may finally be in over his head. Not one to depend on others, Twilight has his work cut out for him, procuring both a wife and a child for his mission to infiltrate an elite private school. What he doesn't know is that the wife he's chosen is an assassin, and the child he's adopted is a telepath. So this, of course, originates as a manga series. The artwork for the light novel is provided by the mangaka for the series. The manga is licensed and released in English by Viz. I believe this is the first volume, which is a novelization of the series. We're going to talk a little bit more about manga novelizations in a little bit on this list. But that seems to be kind of a common thing in Japan. If you haven't been following these lists, or you don't really follow that scene as much, it seems to be that what typically will happen is we're very used to light novels coming out, then getting a manga adaptation, and then getting an anime adaptation. But what also happens is it goes the other way. Sometimes a manga will come out and be really popular, and so then they'll do a light novel adaptation of it, and then, you know, probably at some point in anime as well. So this seems to be that, and like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. At number 7, with 8,408 copies sold, Kirby's Dream Land, Dede's Escape Mission. Yes, if you aren't aware, Kirby's a big thing in Japan. There have been numerous Kirby novels, manga series, and even when I used to do the top 10 a couple years ago, before I took sort of a break from doing it, every time a new Kirby novel came out, it ended up on the list. Yeah, Kirby's a thing in Japan, and I mean, I'm not really questioning it, but I'm just saying that's kind of how it is. But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, Kirby always seems to sell fairly well, so I don't have much else to say about that, because I don't believe it's like a series per se. It's just like different stories with Kirby, and I believe some of the novels have also been adaptations of game storylines. Some of them are all 100% original stories. I believe they use various writers and everything else, so it's basically just an ongoing series starring Kirby. At number 6, with 8,571 copies sold, it's Demon Slayer, and this is a novelization of the manga series. And in fact, this one is now the novelization of the manga arc, which takes place in a brothel, which is set after Mugen Train, which, of course, if you're any following Japanese theater at all, you know that the Demon Slayer film Mugen Train has obliterated the Japanese box office. Just has absolutely, I think, stunned just about everybody that was following it with how well it has done. And it's kind of funny because when that came out, I wasn't actually covering this top 10. I was looking at doing it, but part of the thing that held me back was because 4 out of the 10 spots were held by Demon Slayer novels. Some of them are side stories, but this one in particular, taking a look at the machine translation, it is a novelization of the manga. So it seems to be trying to capitalize on that whole thing, because that's actually how they're advertising it. That's kind of the opening byline is, read the story, read where the story continues from the hit movie Mugen Train. So yeah, they're just obviously trying to ride that wave of the success of the film. And you know, the manga itself is over in Japan, so I suppose this is a way of trying to extend the dollars that they can get out of the property. At number 5, with 10,358 copies sold, volume number 2 of New The Irregular at Magic High School, Cygnus Maidens. Follows 2 girls named Arisa and Marika. Though raised as sisters, Arisa is one day entrusted to the elite Jumonji magical family, separating them for 2 years. Now, both are enrolled at first high school and finally reunite. Now, a few people commented on this because it was on the list last week, and people were saying that they don't really recall these characters specifically, although the Jumonji family does play kind of a role. They are featured in the series, the main series, so it doesn't really sound like this is that tightly connected to the Irregular at Magic High School. But again, I mean, maybe that will change over time. Maybe there will be sort of more of a convergence of the storylines. I'm not too sure, but this for now is, I would just treat it as strictly a spin-off type series. At number 4, with 12,393 copies sold, Volume 9 of Diary of a Demon Wife in Asakusa. Maki, a high school girl in Asakusa, who has a demon princess, Ibaraki Doji, in her previous life. The story of the strongest demon bride who is now a human being, but who forcibly takes the, quote, husband from her previous life, Shuten Doji, and thrusts them headfirst in the troubles of Ayakashi. So this series, again, is actually from a different list. It's not technically listed as a light novel, although pretty much if you look it up, everybody seems to universally accept that it is. And what's funny is I remember talking about this, the earlier volumes of this from a couple years ago, so I guess it has continued to do well. All about these individuals who are reincarnations of demons, basically, and that it, spills over into the modern world, yada, 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 as it does. It's interesting. Seems to be selling quite well, but not a series that I hear a lot of. It's always a little harder to find information on this one. At number 3, with 14,726 copies sold, the novelization of the film Belle. This one was written by the director himself, Mamoru Hosoda. The film released on July 16th. Suzu, a 17-year-old high school student living in a rural village with her father. For years, she has only been a shadow of herself. One day, Suzu enters You, a virtual world of 5 billion online members, and she becomes Belle, a world-famous singer. Belle soon meets with a mysterious creature with whom she embarks on a journey of adventures and love in their quest of becoming who they truly are. So again, this is kind of interesting because last week I was saying when we got to the list this week, the tail end, so obviously this goes up to the 18th, so the 16th, 17th, 18th, 3 days the film would have been opened. I wondered how this would do, and it has actually had much stronger sales this week than it has the last couple. So I don't know, again, I haven't seen any reviews yet of the film. It's probably maybe a little early for those to show up in English, but definitely it seems that the hype for this film has survived its release because, as I said, the novelization sold a heck of a lot more copies this week than it has for a while, so the hype seems to be real. We'll wait and see what the reviewers say on this side. At number 2, with 19,791 copies sold, volume number 5 of The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Amane lives alone in an apartment, and the most beautiful girl in school, Mahiru, lives just next door. They've almost never spoken until the day he sees her in distress on a rainy day and lends her his umbrella. To return the favor, she offers him help around the house, and a relationship slowly begins to blossom as the distance between them closes. So a warm, fuzzy, light novel slice of life rom-com. It's good to see this on the list, obviously. So much of it is sort of fantasy and everything else. It's good to see that the slice of life rom-com is alive and well. Then we come to number 1. Now, this is kind of interesting to me because, again, this is not from the actual light novel list. It's from one of the other lists. And this is actually a title that was very recently licensed by Yen On. And it was a title that I had never heard of, and I really wasn't too sure what the drive for them to pick it up was, other than they really didn't have a lot of sort of period piece romance shoujo type titles. However, volume 5 of this series this week sold 68,161 copies sold. And that is the series My Happy Marriage. Born to a noble family, Mio is raised by her abusive stepmother and married off to Kyoka, a soldier so heartless his prior fiancés fled within 3 days into their engagement. With no home to return to, Mio slowly starts to open her heart to her cold and pale husband-to-be, despite their rocky introduction. This might just be her chance at finding true love and happiness. So yeah, never discount the power of the shoujo. 68,000 that's like Sword Art Online Classroom of the Elite opening week type sales. Like that's pretty phenomenal. Seems a lot clearer to me why this one now got licensed. Also, I love the art on this. I don't know what the interior artwork looks like, but the cover artwork is just awesome. Really love the cover artwork for this. Now we come to the top 10 series. And again, remember, this is just the top 10 series that are classified only as light novels. For that reason, My Happy Marriage doesn't show up on this list, even though its sales tanked pretty much everybody else, because technically, as far as the Oricon lists are concerned, it is not a light novel. Again, I'm still not clear on whether that's the book itself or whether it's the publisher. I kind of feel that it's the publisher that they go by. They're basically like, these publishers are light novels, these publishers are not. And yet there are titles that show up in, say, Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi, which is a light novel ranking, that never show up in the light novel list. So I'm really not too sure how it's set up. It may just be, I think it's by publisher, otherwise it may be arbitrary. I really have no idea. If anybody's familiar with the actual way that they rank these things, whether it's by title, by publisher, so forth, I'd be very curious to know, so I can kind of make that a permanent thing of this. In any case, this is the top 10 series, and it is, as I said, just based on the series classed as light novels. So at number 10, How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. Oh, hero. With that cliched line, Kazuya Soma found himself summoned to another world, and his adventure did not begin. After he presents his plan to strengthen the country economically and militarily, the king cedes the throne to him, and Soma finds himself saddled with ruling the nation. What's more, he's betrothed to the king's daughter now? In order to get the country back on its feet, Soma calls the wise, the talented, and the gifted to his side. 5 people gather before the newly crowned Soma. Just what are the many talents and abilities they possess? What path will his outlook as a realist take Soma and the people of his country down? A revolutionary transferred to another world administrative fantasy series starts here. So again, this one benefiting from the whole anime thing. Obviously, the anime for this one just started. Now, supposedly, part of how this series got greenlit for an anime was because of the strength of the sales in English. This has been put out by J Novel Club, and it was also one of their deals with early on. They had a deal with 7 Seas where 7 Seas released print editions of some of J Novel Club's titles before J Novel Club got big enough that they were printing their own. And it has been one of the best sellers for J Novel Club since they started it. So it definitely seems to be a series that's done incredibly well in English. That's given rise for it to now have this anime. And yeah, we're definitely seeing it getting a bit of a boost in Japan as well. At number 9, Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. At number 8, Spy Family. At number 7, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Living alone and never having had a girlfriend, 37-year-old Satoru Mikami is dissatisfied with how his life has turned out. But after dying at the hands of a robber, he awakens to a fresh start in a new world as a slime monster. And again, another series benefiting from an ongoing anime. I find that seems to be sort of a consistent thing when you're talking about the top 10 series sellers. Sometimes, of course, you do see that boost in the individual volumes like we have with The Detective Is Already Dead. But same thing with this one, though. Like with the individual volumes, with the series list, it is by all of the volumes in the series sales. It's not just a single volume, obviously. So you're seeing like people buying ahead to get ahead of the anime, or people trying to read along with the anime. So anime really seems to be a big influencer on the actual series list. At number 6, the Kirby light novel series. At number 5, the Demon Slayer light novel adaptation series. At number 4, the Irregular at Magic High School. At number 3, Belle. At number 2, The Detective Is Already Dead. And finally, at number 1, The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. So those are your top 10 series, light novel series of the week for July 12th to the 18th of 2021. As I said, it's kind of an imperfect list because it does omit titles that we would consider light novels or are considered light novels, but just because of however the listing of the publication goes, they are not included. Hence why Angel Next Door is number 1 and not My Happy Marriage, which did more than triple the sales. In any case, that is your top 10 light novels in Japan for the week of July 12th to the 18th. Again, join me next Monday. I post this list every single Monday here on the channel, so you can keep up with what's going on in Japan, what's popular. Sometimes, it's kind of cool because we do hear about series that are not available in English, and so you can always feel free to write down the ones that sound cool to you. And when companies like 7 Seas or any of the other companies say, hey, what should we license? Well, you got your list ready. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.